Hey everyone, welcome to Shunya One, episode 188. Today, once again, we have Saurabh Garg, the co-founder of NoBroker.com and their chief business officer. Saurabh was here talking to me about their very interesting 8-year plus journey. NoBroker is probably a name you've definitely heard if you've rented or bought a house in the last 8 years in India. And they've been pretty much iconic in disrupting and evolving an industry which was fairly untouched and I mentioned notorious in my conversation with him. And he talks to us about some very interesting incidents, episodes, learnings, and of course insights about this entire market of real estate and how they went about solving this. So let's take a break and jump right into the conversation.
Hello. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On the 100th episode of Marathi Kirkitun, the Deshmukhs talk about their podcasting journey and how the podcast came into their life. They are joined by their son, the traveling professor, Smarter with Sid host Siddharth Deshmukh, and IVM co-founder Kavita Rajwade. On Simplified, Chuck, Shrikit, and Naren discuss the fascinating topic of cryptocurrency and blockchain with guest Siddharth Rao. On Nankari, Archit speaks to writer Samanth Subramanian about how he writes about India's diverse food habits, and the two geek out over their favorite coastal cuisines. On Credit Smart with Sibyl, Anupam Gupta, host of the Paisa Vaisa podcast, and Sujata Ahlawat, Senior Vice President TransUnion Sibyl, shares the steps to begin a credit journey and also tell you how to maintain a healthy credit score. On Postcards from Nowhere, in episode 10 of his series, Ireland Unraveled, Utsav uncovers the story of Magdalene Laundries and how it relates to an alternative rock band and a boy's search for his mother. Once again, I'd like to remind you all about our merch store. Go check it out on the website, ivmpodcast.com. There's a tab for a shop. Click that and it'll take you to our store. Also, do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Please do spread the word about the show. That really does help us. And finally, do remember, rate us or review us wherever you are listening. And that could also be YouTube. We have a number of channels on YouTube where you can go and check out our shows. You can go and find those channels on ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, HDFC Mutual Fund, TransUnion Sibyl, SBI Life Insurance, Checkpoint Software, and Smallcase. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Hi Saurabh, welcome to Shunya One. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing fine. Thank you so much for joining us. I believe you're joining us from Bangalore, right, today?
Yeah, and it's been a crazy week in Bangalore, at least the last 2, 3 days. It's been
Exactly.
raining a lot, and it was supposedly a very bad rainy day today, but I can see sun right now.
I know. I was surprised. I was surprised to I've had a few calls with the folks in Bangalore today, and they've been only talking about how much the water level is up in their basement or something like that. So it's
Yeah.
it's been funny. And here we
Yeah.
thought we are at the end of the monsoons, but clearly there's some leftover for Bangalore.
No, that's true, and I think Bangalore, even if it rains a bit, it becomes really difficult. But last 2, 3 days, it has rained quite a bit.
Yep. And I think you've been in Bangalore most of your entrepreneur journey as well as your past life, is it? So could you give us a little history on, the roles you've played, maybe leading up to obviously being
Yeah.
part of No?
So, no, actually, I've been in Bangalore for the last 5 years. Before that, most of my time was in Bombay. I spent almost 20 years in Bombay before that. I did my engineering from Bombay. For my MBA, I went to Ahmedabad. I was there for a couple of years. Then I did my first job. I started with Unilever, and I was in Bombay for almost 3 years there. And then after that, I started my first venture, which was in Pune, Bombay, to begin with. And 2014 is when I started NoBroker. I mean, the idea came a long time back. The idea came when I actually quit my Unilever job. So 2007, back then, I quit my Unilever job, and at that time, Unilever used to give you a house to live in. So I used to live in in Bandra in a very good house. Company accommodation. And when I quit Unilever to start my own venture, that's the first time when I had to understand how real estate works. I had to find a house to rent, and I mean, I think that's where the inception of kind of idea about no broker came in, because I struggled a lot. I struggled for many months to find a house. Uh, because I had just quit my job, and the new venture didn't have any funding by then. So I said that let me try and find a house without paying any brokerage, and that was like hugely challenging. I tried all the platforms that existed that time, all the horizontals, all the verticals. Uh, couldn't find anything. Everything was with brokers. So ultimately, I had to pay a large amount of money as brokerage. But I believe you live in Bombay, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
so
Of
you
course. I mean, I could
so I'm
totally empathize. I know the challenges of Bombay renting. I mean, oh my God, I struggled through the years with it. So yes, it hurts you.
yeah.
You feel physical pain when you have to pay that brokerage. I think.
Yeah, and the funny part is that it's not only about the brokerage. It's the fact that when you go to a broker, he'll first show you the worst houses, which nobody wants to live in. So he'll first frustrate you with bad houses and then show you
Yeah.
one good house. So you just have to say yes कि यार इतने frustrate हो गए हैं कि अब ना घर ले लेते हैं
Correct.
जो भी है. And there'll
Correct.
always be a huge information asymmetry. He'll tell you something which probably is not true or half true, and then you'll be stuck with that. And especially in in Bombay and Pune, there's a funny thing that when you are renewing your lease, renewing your agreement after 11 months, the broker comes back and demands the brokerage
Yes.
again. I don't know if you guys have faced that.
Yes.
So
Of course.
so that's like डबल वैमी कि यार एक तो पहले ही इतनी खराब सर्विस थी, अब 11 मंथ्स के बाद ब्रोकर कुछ काम भी नहीं कर रहा है और ब्रोकरेज भी देना है,
Correct.
you know.
Correct.
So
They were the
so that
original.
was
They were the original SaaS fee people, I guess. If you think about it.
SaaS fee without any service.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the entire idea about no broker came that time. And 2007 itself, I booked the domain name nobroker.in. I said कि यार ये
Oh.
तो solve करना ही है, because millions of people like me face this every day, every year, whenever they're finding a home. So that idea was there in my mind for a very, very long time. And
Right.
I think that's when 2013 is when I was visiting Bangalore for some work. I met Akhil. Akhil is my co-founder, and I was discussing this idea with him because he used to work with Oracle, and I said that I think if something needs to be done, we have to do it with the help of technology. And Akhil was at that time contemplating that whether he should move to US or should he do something different, because he was also bored after working in the same company
Right.
for a long time. So we said ki, and then Akhil also immediately felt that this idea is so true, because he had also faced this multiple times living in Bangalore. Whenever he changed a house, he had faced a similar kind of a problem. So
Yeah.
he also immediately hooked onto it and said, "Ki, this sounds very interesting. Let me start work on this." And then we started building on कि कैसे इस पे हम लोग काम करते हैं. And sometime later I also met Amit. Amit is again my third co-founder. And when I spoke to Amit, he had faced similar issues. He had lived in Calcutta. He had faced similar issue in Calcutta. And in Bangalore also, he had a very funny incident where he moved to Bangalore, and the broker met him, and immediately he said कि अच्छा अच्छा हाँ आपके लिए मेरे पास घर है. And he called the owner, and he had met Amit like 5 minutes back, and he said कि हाँ मैं इनको बहुत अच्छी तरह से जानता हूँ, ये बहुत अच्छे लोग हैं, एकदम बहुत अच्छी फैमिली है, आप एकदम don't be worried, these are very very good
Correct.
guys. And he said completely vegetarian है. And that
Oh my
owner,
goodness.
so owner assumed that these guys are vegetarian, and Amit is not a vegetarian. So after that, for 3-4 years, they were living in the house, and whenever the owner used to come, they were hiding their eggs and meat. कि यार हमने तो broker ने बोल दिया कि vegetarian लोग हैं, so this was quite a crazy thing. So I think all of us, in our life have faced either information asymmetry or bad service or the entire broken experience. कि जैसे ही मैंने अमित से बात किया, अखिल से बात किया, everybody just related to it and said कि boss, this is a big problem and we need to solve that, and that's how NoBroker came in. So we started work in 2013, 2014 is when we launched the platform. That's where we are now.
Yeah, it's almost been 8+ years. Obviously you guys are one of the largest startups in not just this space, but overall, I would say, in the breadth of startups in the ecosystem now. So tell us a little bit about these 8 years also, because I think this 8 years there's easily been obviously there's a lot happened in the market in India where people have warmed up to, let's say, platforms like digital platforms in general, platforms which sort of take out the middleman in various other industries. But this particular industry, I think, has been very, I would say, it's a notorious industry, if I may call it that, right? You were dealing with unstructured systems. You were dealing with probably regulation which is existent beyond, I don't know what, like some amount of regulation when it comes to registrations and stamp duty and so on and so forth. So what were those challenges? How did you break down the problem and then go about building the platform and its capabilities? Because it's one thing to build the software and then get people to use it and trust it and so on. So if you could talk us through that a little.
Yeah. So look, we realized that this problem exists in rental, and over a period of time, our customers only, pushed us into saying कि यार similar problem है buy sell में भी, and of course, very very similar issues are there in buy sell also. So today, if you look at the platform, it's large in the sense that we do around 60,000 rental transactions every month. So 60,000 people find rental homes every month, and around 5,000 plus people buy homes on the platform.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's pretty huge. I mean, just to think in the context कि आप 5,000 homes जो buy करते हैं, अगर आप उसी के बारे में सोचे, average ticket size is around 70 lakhs. So that's like 3,500 crore worth of transaction of buy sell happening on the platform. I think most people, because when we started with rental. So most people relate us with rental, but we are the largest in buy sell also. I mean, annually we do 50,000-60,000 buy sell transactions every month, and a very large number of around 7-8 lakhs rental transactions every year. That's where we are. जब हमने स्टार्ट किया तो हमने कहा कि बेसिक प्रॉब्लम है कि देयर इज एन इंफॉर्मेशन एसिमेट्री. सपोज आई एम लुकिंग टू रेंट शिलादित्या's हाउस व्हिच इज 2 फ्लोर्स अबव मी. मैं फर्स्ट फ्लोर पे रह रहा हूँ, थर्ड फ्लोर पे घर है. Even then I don't have that information, and what will happen is I'll go through a middleman जो सिर्फ क्या करेगा, वो आएगा, या तो मेरे को पहले वो 5 घर और दिखाएगा जो कि अच्छे नहीं है, और अल्टीमेटली मुझे उस घर में लेके जाएगा और बोलेगा ये हैं शिलादित्य, ये हैं सौरभ, आप दोनों बैठिए और बात करिए. तो अगर उसका रोल ये है तो फिर उसके लिए you don't need a middleman, you just need a platform which can connect both of you guys, and that platform should have a lot of intelligence. That platform should, a very important thing is that allow only genuine owners, tenants, buyers and sellers on the ecosystem. No agent or anybody else should be there in the platform. It should be only genuine parties who are there. So that is the first thing which we did, and made sure that only genuine parties are there. Second, we also realized that unlike West, जहाँ पे कि काफी सारा डेटा अवेलेबल है या फिर काफी ऑर्गेनाइज्ड मार्केट, कि वहाँ पे अगर आप जाएंगे, आप यूएस में जाएंगे तो इवन इफ यू हैव टू बिकम एन रियल एस्टेट एजेंट, यू हैव टू राइट एन एग्जाम, यू हैव टू क्वालिफाई टू बिकम a real estate agent. You need to do valuation of the house, you need to have some data and all those things. इंडिया में कुछ भी नहीं है ऐसा. तो हर एक आदमी जिसके पास ओनर का या सेलर का फोन नंबर है कैन एक्चुअली बी अ ब्रोकर. मतलब चाय वाला जो गली के कोने में चाय वाला बैठा है, वो भी अगर ओनर का नंबर उसके पास है तो वो भी ब्रोकर बन जाता है. और वो बोलता है कि हाँ मैं आपको घर दिला देता हूँ. तो
Correct. Anything for a
कहीं
commission. We
पे
are a country of that, right? We are a country of, well, middlemen, you can say.
yeah. So कहीं पे the platform has to play that role. The platform has to have all the data that can help people make decisions. So we said that the platform, because there are so many people coming and generating so much data. So whatever a very good broker will do with the help of heuristics, we should be able to do it with the help of our AI and ML or our algorithms, those kind of things.
Correct.
For example, अगर कोई broker बोलता है कि जो कि अच्छा broker है, right? Who actually, and there are good brokers. It's not that everybody is bad. There are
Correct.
definitely, if you go to the top 10, 15, 20% brokers, they're actually very good and they'll facilitate the transaction in a very good way. But the problem is in the mass. As you go down, you'll see कि जो mass brokers हैं, they are creating a problem because many of them are like I said कि कोई चाय वाला ही broker की तरह act कर रहा है, grocery shop वाला ही broker की तरह act कर रहा है. तो वो एक अच्छा ब्रोकर क्या करेगा कि आपको बोलेगा कि अच्छा आप अपना बजट बताइए मेरे को, और अगर आपने बोला कि मेरे को ना 2 BHK लेना है रेंट के लिए और मेरा बजट है से 60,000 और मुझे बैंड्रा वेस्ट में चाहिए, तो ही विल टेल यू कि सर बैंड्रा वेस्ट में तो नहीं मिलेगा आपको इस बजट में,
Correct.
बट आप एक काम करिए, मैं आपको ना या तो थोड़ा सा खार के आगे देख लेते हैं, सांता क्रूज में देख लेते हैं, वहां पे मिल जाएगा. Now,
Right.
this is what the platform has to play that role. So if you go and say, okay, this is my budget and I want to look at Bandra West, it should give, okay, this is something which is recommended for you and you can find that. Or otherwise, if you want to, if as an owner you want to list your property and say, I want to sell my property in say Outer Ring Road, HSR layout in Bangalore, it's a 2 BHK 1,000 square feet, और मैं इसको 1.6 crores में बेचना चाहता हूँ. The platform has to point out कि सर 1.6 crores में नहीं बिकेगी ये. It will sell at 1.2 crores because that's the running rate. So we
Going
build a lot
rate,
of these kind of tools, right? So there is a rentometer which is there on the platform. So anybody who is listing a property, anybody who is trying to rent a property can see that, okay, what is the average rent or what is the right rent for this property? Similarly, what is the right price for buying or selling a property? So these kind of tools are something which we very early invested in. Very early said that data science is going to be very, very critical for what we are trying to solve. So these were the basics जिससे कि हमने start किया कि a platform that only has genuine parties on both the sides and lot of data, data science and applications of that, because that is what this industry is about. क्योंकि हर चीज
Right.
यहाँ पे मतलब क्योंकि टिकट साइज भी काफी बड़ा है, चाहे आप रेंट ले रहे हैं या फिर आप प्रॉपर्टी खरीद रहे हैं, रेंट में इट विल बी वन ऑफ योर बिगेस्ट स्पेंड्स एवरी मंथ, एंड इफ यू आर बाइंग अ प्रॉपर्टी इट इज डेफिनेटली योर बिगेस्ट
Bigger,
परचेज इन योर
yeah.
लाइफ. So clearly people are very, very involved and we are very careful about that, and only data can do that thing, because if you again look at brokers, they will have a very biased kind of a thing कि मेरे पास जो है उसमें मैं बता देता हूँ क्या सबसे अच्छा है, बट वी नीड टू मेक इट वेरी, वेरी डेमोक्रेटिक कि एनीबडी हु कम्स कैन लुक एट इन अ वेरी ऑब्जेक्टिव वे. अगर हमारे पास नहीं है तो नहीं है, मतलब दैट्स व्हाट इट हैज टू बी, so that's where we started from, and clearly we also saw a big gap कि और कोई भी जो इस इंडस्ट्री में है उस टाइम पे, they were trying to work with brokers, they were trying to be advertising platforms for brokers. Nobody was trying to make a customer to customer model. And clearly, I mean, of course, customer to customer model is also very difficult because आपको in a marketplace आपको दोनों sides बनाने हैं. अगर आप B2C kind of बना रहे हैं कि जहाँ पे एक side में broker है, then it's easier, right? And then B2C kind of a model had worked well in a lot of countries, and for example, a platform like Zillow in the US or REA in Australia. So you would see that those platforms had worked. But again, the difference is that brokers are more professional there. They have to do some certification, they add value, they do valuation, they do maintenance, they do a lot of things. So so that existed. But India में ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं था. So it needed a very different approach. तो सबसे पहला जो हमारा चैलेंज आया शिलादित्य इसमें यही था कि जब हमने प्लेटफॉर्म बनाया और हमने लोगों से बात करना स्टार्ट किया, एवरीबडी सेड कि यार ये तो काम नहीं करेगा, दिस विल नॉट वर्क. एंड व्हेन वी स्टार्टेड डिगिंग कि क्यों ऐसा होगा, दे सेड बिकॉज there's nothing like this in the US, there's nothing like this in China, तो इंडिया में कैसे चलेगा? And I think that's 2013-14 was that time कि whatever is happening in US and China, just replicate that in India and things work well. But we realized that India is a very different beast. It's a very different market, very different problems, and we need to have a made for India solution for that. And so our approach was very, 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 very different from what is happening. तो हमने काफी स्ट्रगल किया अपना फर्स्ट फंड रेज करने में, बिकॉज इन्वेस्टर्स वर नॉट कन्विंस्ड कि समथिंग लाइक दिस कैन हैपन. मेनी इन्वेस्टर्स वर ऑफ द ओपिनियन कि नहीं ब्रोकर के बिना तो हो ही नहीं सकता. It can't happen without a broker, because that's what they've seen for so many 20-30 years कि यार ये ट्रांजैक्शन करने के लिए तो broker plays a role. So almost a year we struggled by explaining the investors that something like this has to happen, can exist. And it was quite challenging, and sometimes you start questioning yourself कि यार हम जो कर रहे हैं कि ठीक कर रहे हैं ना, because so many people who have been investors for so many years, if they're rejecting and saying ki, this can't work and this has never worked anywhere in the world, so are we doing something right? But the funny thing was that at that time our marketing budget was 1,000 rupees per day, and with that 1,000 rupees per day, every day we were seeing so many properties being listed, so many tenants coming, interacting with the owners, so many properties being rented out. So every night when we looked at it, we said कि boss, आज हमने 25 property rent out करा दी है.
And what were you doing? What was that marketing? I mean, it's a seemingly small sum for a startup, but what were you doing? Or is it AdWords, or where were you spending 1,000 rupees a day?
So इसमें बहुत ही सिंपल था. हम लोग ना पूरा का पूरा हमारा आइडिया ये था कि we have to let people know that something like this exists. So what we did was कि हमने कहा कि 600 rupees हम डालेंगे Facebook पे, 400 rupees डालेंगे Google में, because Google was very expensive, right? So even people were bidding, all the other competitors were bidding, so the cost was higher. But what we were able to do is we were able to find a keyword called no broker and no brokerage. Those keywords nobody else was bidding, because they were all broker platforms. तो वो प्लेटफॉर्म एक हमें एडवर्ड्स पे मिला जिसपे कोई बिड नहीं करता था उस टाइम पे, तो वो उससे काफी अच्छे लोग आते थे. एंड फेसबुक पे जो हमारे पास प्रॉपर्टीज लिस्ट होती थी, वी यूज्ड टू पोस्ट देम ऑन फेसबुक एंड रन देम विद अ 40 rupee कैंपेन. So every day you used to run 15 properties like that on Facebook, and that used to bring us so many people on the platform every day कि 20-25 तो हम दिन के रेंट आउट करने लगे थे in this kind of budget.
Oh wow!
So,
and that's massive ROI. Imagine, like, not only I mean, it's not just customer acquisition cost; it is literally conversion. Like, you're getting many times over in the conversion on that number.
Yeah, and the best part was that anybody who was either able to rent out a property or rent a property through us, and that time we were only in Bombay and Bangalore. Anybody who was able to do that, they used to either post this on your Facebook, or they used to tell their friends कि यार ये तुमने देखा एक नई चीज आई है कि फ्री में होता है सब कुछ. So I mean, we got a lot of word of mouth, lot of word of mouth, and we realized कि huge latent demand है. People were waiting for this, So there was search for house for rent in Bandra without brokerage, or non-brokerage, no broker. These kind of keyword searches were there, which nobody was tapping. So that was something which started happening. तो हम लोग basically we were trying to raise funds that time, and then we started. जब हमें काफी सारे rejections मिले, उसके बाद एक टाइम ऐसा आया जब some 2-3 investors told us that yeah, we think we'll take a bet and we'll invest. So tomorrow we'll give you a term sheet. And by coincidence everybody said कि हाँ कल term sheet देंगे. तो we were very, very happy, and रात में जाके हम तीनों ने कहा कि यार let's celebrate, let's have a beer, and after a year we are getting a term sheet. सुबह उठे तो मेरे घर पे ईटी आता था, तो ईटी का फ्रंट पेज न्यूज था, हाउसिंग हैज रेज्ड 90 million फ्रॉम सॉफ्ट बैंक.
Oh, this was that. This was 2015, I
And
believe. Or 14.
15, yeah,
Yeah,
around that time.
yeah.
So, so, and suddenly the entire environment changed. People said कि मतलब obviously all the three investors became so one of the guys said कि यार हमें लगता है ना रियल एस्टेट मार्केट ही बड़ा नहीं है, तो इसमें इन्वेस्ट नहीं करना चाहिए हम लोगों को. अनदर गाय सेड कि वी थिंक आपका नाम ठीक नहीं है, नो ब्रोकर जो नाम है ना आपका वो ठीक नहीं है, आप ये नाम चेंज कर लो. मैंने कहा मतलब that's our identity and because of this
I know.
name organically you're getting so much, and if you have to build another platform which is for brokers, why should we exist? I mean, there's no need for us to build a
Correct.
platform then, so a lot of
Free
we had to
free
go through.
gyan came your way, basically.
या and एकदम ही ट्रॉमेटिक एक्सपीरियंस था कि यार अभी टर्म शीट आने वाले किसी ने हाथ से छीन ली, ऐसा लग रहा था कि मतलब आते आते किसी ने हाथ से छीन लिया. सो बट आई थिंक वी सेड कि ठीक है यार, काम करते रहते हैं, अब देखेंगे क्या होगा. And luckily I think one of the investors, he kept on saying no, I still believe in this idea and I think we'll fund you, and that's how Elevation Capital, SAF, who were earlier SAF
Right.
partners, they came in
Right.
and they did our seed round of $3 million. And I think then finally we said कि जब तक पैसा नहीं आ जाएगा ना बैंक पे तभी सेलिब्रेट करेंगे, तब तक सेलिब्रेट ही नहीं करेंगे.
Good one. Good one. Good learning. Yes.
So yeah, so
Wow.
that's
Wow. Yeah.
see, we got a seed round, and then I think we started building the product, we started scaling up. Things are good. I think हमने team recruit करना start किया, and my first question whenever I recruited anybody was, यार, how much brokerage have you paid till now? I wanted to say that if those guys have also feel the pain, do they feel that
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
this
It's
is
a real
really a
problem.
worthy
Yeah.
cause? Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody that we recruited that time, I think most of those guys are still with the company. Those early guys who came in, so have a very very good team. And then हमने थोड़ा scale up शुरू किया. We started launching campaigns. हमने थोड़ा offline campaign किया. And I think 2015 सितंबर की बात है शायद, हमने जस्ट फंडिंग 6-7 महीने हुआ था. एंड हमने क्या किया, हमने एक ऑफिस लिया which was HSR layout में. There was a bungalow which we had taken. We said we don't want to take a proper corporate office because this kind of an office helps the teams come together, the culture can be
Right.
built at the early stage of the company. So we took a bungalow kind of a place, and I remember that we were standing on the terrace of the bungalow. I and Amit were chatting something, and we saw that some 50-60 people were coming towards the office. हमें लगा कि यार कोई प्रोसेशन होगा, इतने प्रोसेशन निकलते रहते हैं, कोई मतलब some procession would be there which is going, or some ceremony, religious ceremony, something like that. But we didn't realize कि वो जो है वो 50-60 brokers थे जो कि
Yes,
आए
I
और
was
उन्होंने
gonna guess.
हमारा ऑफिस तोड़ना शुरू कर दिया कि यार तोड़ो, घर घुसो इसमें, and break their computers. I mean,
Oh
that
my
was
God.
their mission that day. And I mean, that was again such a nightmarish experience. Get to call the police, and I mean, and what do you? I mean, most of these brokers are trying to hit our employees. उन्हें लगता है कि कंप्यूटर तोड़ देंगे इनका तो वेबसाइट ही डाउन हो जाएगी. And that was their version of things कि
Of course. Of course.
cloud तो उनको समझ में आता नहीं है. So they were thinking कि यार
Right.
तो सारे कंप्यूटर्स तोड़ दो, सारे
No, it
employees
was
को
just
थोड़ा
I
सा.
mean, see, this is the notoriety which I was earlier, I guess, referring to. It's gundagardi to some extent.
हाँ. एंड मतलब हम लोग को समझ ही नहीं आता कि क्या करें. फिर हमने पुलिस को बुलाया, पुलिस ने कुछ तो सब लोगों को ले गई पुलिस स्टेशन, कुछ हो रहा है. बट अल्टीमेटली हुआ क्या कि we had to vacate that office because that owner who had given us that house as an office place had not taken a commercial license for that. So brokers
Sure.
got all that information and said कि तो उन्होंने हमें ऑफिस उसी रात को वकेट करना पड़ा. There was no other way. And हमारे पास कोई जगह नहीं है. We are a team of 60-70 people. There is no place to work.
My goodness.
So
Okay.
we asked some people कि यार क्या कर सकते हैं. तो somebody had some extra space in their office. somebody had some co-working space and all that. तो हम लोग पूरी टीम को 2 पार्ट में डिवाइड किया. एक टीम एक जगह से काम कर रही थी, दूसरी टीम एक जगह से काम कर रही थी. एक ऑफिस में तो फर्नीचर भी नहीं था. मतलब the guy said कि यार हमारे पास जगह है बट फर्नीचर नहीं है. So we brought mattresses and people were working on mattresses.
Wow.
And I remember that time that कि हम लोग सोच रहे थे यार ये मतलब how can something like this happen to us, because how can we be so naive कि हमने कभी सोचा नहीं कि कुछ सिक्योरिटी रखनी चाहिए. सीसीटीवी कैमरा भी नहीं था. मतलब when before that we had seen that anybody who does any disruption sees a backlash, right? When Ola, Uber had also seen a backlash happening. हमने कभी सोचा ही नहीं कि हम ऐसा कर रहे हैं disruption, so it will come as a backlash. So it was too naive of us to not even think about that. That's what we now think. But उस टाइम लग रहा था यार ये मतलब क्या हो गया कि जगह ही नहीं है कुछ काम करने के लिए, and the entire team is in a disarray. That's what was happening. But so we had a Japanese investor that time. He came to our office around that time, and he told us, "Boss, this is going to be good for you."
Yeah.
तो हमें तो समझ ही नहीं आया कि मतलब वो क्या बोल रहे हैं कि गुड फॉर यू. यहाँ पे सब मैट्रेस से बैठ के काम कर रहे हैं लोग. लोग परेशान है. But with a period of time, we realized what he meant, because almost 2-3 months we were there before we got another office and we could shift to that. But in these 2-3 months, the team came very strongly together. Everybody rallied behind that cause. Ki boss, yes, we are doing something really great, and we all started believing कि हम कुछ तो सही कर रहे हैं, तभी backlash हुआ.
It's so much backlash.
If you were not doing anything which is making difference in anybody's life, then this would not have happened. So the team came very, very strongly together. Everybody started believing in the vision that much, much more stronger. So I think in a way, I think coming together and bonding of the team was enormous. And like I was saying, that anybody who joined, who was there at that time in the office, most of those guys still continue with us. So
that sort of shared experience and does that for you, I guess.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I mean, these are just early. This is still in your early stages, I would say. Like you said, this is what almost second year of operations. You were already that
I think
scaled up and already
second year of operation हमने launch किया उसके 1 साल बाद ही ये हुआ था. So I mean, lots of ups and downs we have seen in this journey, but it's been great. फिर हमने अपने then finally moved to our office and the office where we work from now, and तब तक हम rental करते थे. फिर हम लोगों ने resale launch किया, because again a lot of people, our own customers, told us that we need resale. And slowly we kept on adding other things. We added primary sale. So a lot of people, for example, said कि अच्छा मुझे घर मिल गया NoBroker से, but rent agreement कौन कराएगा? So we added a rent agreement. Then people said कि
I've used that service, so I know.
Okay. And then people said कि अब मेरे को घर शिफ्ट करना है. Packers and movers, that's a big problem for me. I don't get packers and movers. It's highly unorganized and there's no quality guarantee. Owners were saying कि हमें घर रेंट करने से पहले पेंट कराना है, क्लीन कराना है. Buyer is saying कि होम लोन के लिए, मतलब if I'm buying a resale property, it's a big problem because I have to do it myself across multiple banks. Primary में तो चलो फिर भी वहाँ पे होम लोन के लिए कोई होता है. Yeah. So I think all these things kept on adding, and ultimately we realized that this entire real estate journey, this entire journey is broken, and anybody who has to solve it has solved it from the beginning to the end. From the time that a person starts searching or the owner is putting his property for rent or sale, to the time that the person moves into the house, living in the house, paying his rent, everything needs to be streamlined, because all these services are highly unorganized. The quality is poor, or there is no guarantee that the one time if the quality is good, next time it will be different. So somebody has to come who can say, I will make sure there is consistency in whatever you do. I'll help you find a house without paying huge amount of money, and there will be a service guarantee across the entire value chain. So now today, like I said, NoBroker is a one-stop shop. You can do
Okay.
everything in your real estate journey on NoBroker, and like I said, that large number of transactions, both for rental and buy and sell, happen on the platform. We also have a society management app called No Brokerhood, through which you can manage your entire society, whether it is allowing visitors, visitor entry, or your ERP and maintenance. Everything can be done through that. So that's
Yeah. You've
broadly where
solved
we
for
are
the
today.
entire ecosystem, and of course, I'm sure there's a lot more ancillary stuff. On that note, Saurabh, let me take a quick break, come back, and continue the conversation.
Previously on Varta Lab. After 3 wonderful seasons, Akash and Naveen went their separate ways in search for glory, comedy, and comedy glory. But all they found is long transit time, bureaucracy, and upset stomachs. Now, after 3 years of collecting stories and hustling,
I can't mention. Bullies. There's no need to overact. Bullies.
Akash and Naveen are back at the lab
Let's do it.
with
Stories, we've got stories. They're a little bit of funny and a little bit of dissimilar. You wanna hear them? It's got humans. They're sitting in a box and talking bold at what all loud.
Okay, so Saurabh, you've told us about the journey, about all the real world ups and downs that you had to face, the initial days, and I mean, and this domain that you're in, that you just said that you're solving for real estate, right? Across the value chain of real estate, buying, selling, renting, is still, I would say, I'm sure there's a lot more to solve, and it is still fairly I won't, maybe not broken, but it is fairly unknown. It's territory which a consumer like me or you enters with a very little confidence on what is the right, whether it's a pricing debate, whether it's paperwork debate, whether it's service and support, whether I'm getting it from the right places. So there's a large degree of assurance, trust, value building that you are obviously doing with your users, your community members, and then there's the rest of the landscape which you're expanding on. So what are the next sort of initiatives, maybe if you could, as closing notes, what are the directions in which you now want to expand beyond, let's to really build this into something which is like the go-to place for anything in real estate that someone needs?
Yeah. So Shiladitya, when we started, we had only a simple thing that let's connect these people. But we realized over a period of time that there are different kind of people who need different levels of service. So basically, now on the platform, what we're doing is there is one free service. So as an owner or a tenant or a buyer, you can come and, as an owner or seller, you can list your property completely free of cost, and then prospective buyers or tenants will contact you. You can speak to them and fix up a meeting, fix up showing the house, and then just close the deal. And then you can come back to us and say, okay, I want paperwork to be done, these kind of things. But we realize that there are some people who want to save brokerage, but don't have that much time. People like you and me, they would struggle doing this. That every time a buyer or a tenant is calling, I pick up the call, explain the entire thing, schedule meetings and all. So we said that let's also have some premium plans on the platform. So now we have a plan where you can get a phone relationship manager. So if Shiladitya wants to sell his property in Bombay, he can list that property and give all the details to the phone relationship manager by paying a small amount of money, which is a fraction of what you'll pay as a brokerage. Probably 1/20th or 1/10th of what you'll
Correct.
pay.
Correct.
And then that person will speak to all the prospective buyers, keeps your consideration in mind that, okay, he wants this kind of a buyer, and then fix up a meeting, say on a Saturday, where 3 buyers are coming back to back, and you just go for half an hour or 1 hour and show the property
Nice.
and come back, and he will do all the negotiation on your behalf, help you close the deal. He'll also help you with the entire paperwork, sale deed, and all those things. So it becomes very easy for the person to, do a transaction. Similarly, there is a service for the demand side, which is supply, which is the tenant or the or the buyer. So I think this is something which we launched a few years back, and this already is doing well. And our idea is that let more and more people know about this, so that they can use these service and do the entire transaction with a lot of peace of mind, without having to put a lot of effort in doing that. And then, of course, all these services which we have. So right now we might be very large, for example, in terms of number of paintings that we do, number of packers and movements that we do. We might be one of the biggest in India, but just the number of people who do the transaction on the platform, or people who are doing who are right now in the journey, or are there on the platform, might have found a house through us or through somebody else, that number is very, very
Right.
large. So still our attach rates to that are very low. So we think that there's a huge scope to grow and have a much higher number of people doing that transaction. So that is again going to be a very important part of what we do. And thirdly, I think within the cities where we are, we are in 6 cities right now. So we are in Bangalore, Chennai, Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, and Delhi NCR. But within these cities right now, our market share would be very, very low.
Okay.
Although we have more than, I would say, around
From
at
a
any
market
point
share
of
of
time,
transactions happening is what you're referring to.
market share of transactions happening, market share of properties being listed. So right now, I think
Right.
we would have around 4 lakh to 5 lakh properties active on the platform. But this is of the total available universe. This will be
Of course.
roughly 10%,
Of course.
right? Almost 85 to 90% of the properties are still with offline brokers, right?
Right.
So we need to educate our owners and sellers that there is a platform like this, NoBroker, which exists, and through which you can actually do it at a much lower cost, at a fraction of cost, and with very, very less effort. That is something which we need to do still, because a lot of these people don't know the platform or don't understand how this platform works. So that is, I think, something which we need to do. And of course, we need to expand. We are in 6 cities right now. We want to be in the top 50 cities of India. Plus, I think every month I can see that for example, we're not in Calcutta right now, but every month we get so many
Requests.
negative
Yeah.
reviews on our Play Store that you are not in
Oh.
Calcutta.
Oh,
So
wow. Oh, man. Imagine that.
so
Yeah.
you're not in Ahmedabad, you're not in Surat. So I think we need to clearly expand fast to these cities and help people in those cities also to save
Right.
a huge amount of brokerage. Uh, so, by the way, I don't know if you know how much brokerage is paid every year in India. Do you have any idea about what's the
Oh,
quantum?
wow. Is there a stat on that? I mean,
I mean, there's a
must be, of
guesstimate
course. It's
which
based
we've
in
done.
Bombay. It's usually a month's worth of rent. So I imagine that, and then there is the resale ones are like what 1% or something like that. Must be some
Yeah, yeah,
massive numbers. I mean, yes, I have no idea.
yeah.
I don't.
It's
I'm scared to take a guess.
I think whatever guess you take, it will be much higher than that. It's $19 billion, 1 lakh
Oh
forty
my
thousand
god.
crore is paid as brokerage every year, and every year by people like you and me. So that's
Oh
the
wow.
quantum.
That
This is not
is
the transaction amount, right? This is the brokerage amount. This is only the intermediation.
exactly.
Yeah.
Transaction amount is obviously
Yes.
leagues higher,
Yes.
but oh my goodness, that is a brilliant size of problem to go after. That is,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think. I wonder why those few investors who said no, I must be feeling right now.
Yeah. So I
Oh
think
man, that is
huge
crazy.
problem, and
Yeah,
we have we have just scratched the surface. I mean,
right.
we have to go so much more deeper. We have to solve it for so many more people. So clearly, I think there is a lot of work which needs to be done in the coming years. I mean, that's where we are.
No, definitely. And, one of the things you mentioned with obviously the kind of additional services you're adding, I think what you've done is while you are no broker, you have taken the best parts of whatever the broker used to do and
Hmm.
tried to instill that as part of your service. At least I think whatever little was good in the service that they offered, I think you've captured that, and the rest, the negative parts, obviously you have eradicated. But yeah, I'm sure there's tons of more problems to come. I mean, we are a dense country. And like you said, Play Store reviews is one thing, Twitter or wherever else, social media. I think there's always uproar about house hunting and brokerage and
Yeah, yeah,
the biases that exist in society. I mean, I had a follow-on question about that, about how India, even in renting, I mean, maybe for you and me, we've had regular experiences, but others, like depending on what religion you are, depending on whether you're married, unmarried, there are so many layers to how the whole market works. And
yeah.
that's and even that's a problem. I mean, that's also some in some ways some problem, like a platform like yours has to deal with. So yeah, look forward to how you solve all of it, or the progress in the journey, Saurabh. Thank you so much for sharing the story. It was enlightening. I'm glad that I was also a user of some of these services, including, by the way, the movers and packers, now I recall. So these things definitely are helping pretty much everyone. For folks who
Right.
are listening in, Saurabh, if they want to, let's say, reach out to you, give you feedback, or understand more about No Broker, what's the best way to reach you?
I think the best way to reach me is either is on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm available there. You can just ping me. I respond at least once in 2 days, so you'll get some response from me for sure.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. And for, of course, everyone else listening, if you're listening to this show on any of your favorite podcasting apps, or on watching our video on YouTube, or anywhere else, please leave us a rating and a review. Give us feedback, give us comments, talk to us on Twitter as well, on the IVM podcast handle, or mine at Shiladitya. And yeah, I think we love to hear more of your comments as well. Sort of, thank you once again, and of course we'll share all your details with everyone on when we release the show. But thank you sincerely for everything that you've built, and the journey ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Shiladitya. Great speaking to you.